the links to join the channel here over at SubScribeStar. Check the other links. You got a mailbox. You want to mail me a comic. So John, and actually speaking of comics, John Malin's, I don't think I have comics from everyone else. I don't think I have any John Malin's other than Jawbreakers 1 and 2. So John Malin, our flannel clad hero, he's the guy who did a graveyard shift like about vampires and whatnot. Great artist. He's standing up to C2E2 and bringing flannels back. You looking down, like I've been wearing them for 40 years. Malin and Cecil are kind of interesting because they were left-wing guys who were forced to the right because of the country getting so full of globalist Bolsheviks. I guess the West in general, and it's kind of cool to see people come to an awakening, come to Odin, come to Jesus moment. And it's very cool to see someone get their first 223 when the whole BLM stuff was hitting the fan. I saw that on a live stream a couple of years ago. I thought that was cool. So the anti-ComicsGate animus has reared its ugly head once again. I kind of thought the whole anti-CG stuff had died down, and then I've got two Twitters, right? One for this channel, and then one for just base trolling, and I pop on there under this channel name, and there's like the anti-CG stuff it's been 7-8 years or something. Move on. Like the ComicsGate and the Phantom Menace, the YouTube people, they monetize their stuff. They're selling comics directly, but they're doing videos, making money. They've got SubScribeStar. I mean, I do too. You can check that out. Everyone is doing something to monetize it, selling entertainment and shilling comics, which is a whole lot of fun. It's a great combination. Honestly, discovering selling comics on YouTube, what a great discovery that was from one Mr. Diversity in Comics, Richard C. Myers. But the anti-CG people, they're just hating on CG, but they're not actually turning it into cash. So they're spending their time. It's bizarre when you look at them and like, some of the stuff you're doing is actually putting oxygen on their fire and helping them sell. And they don't get it because I think a lot of them are not playing with a full deck. It seems to be people obsessed with comics or, hey, they're not right in the head. So ComicsGate, in case you have no idea, you haven't been following YouTube for the past, 8 years. And it crossed my radar in 2015, I think. It's a collection of independent artists who sell using YouTube to publicize. It's mostly entertainment, but then there's a little bit of they're always selling in the background, which is, it's a great combination. It's a loose network of people who were tired of SJWs in general and very much tired of their comics. It started with Myers, Diversity in Comics, who would sit in his car and just talk about comics. But I don't know, he's wired differently. He's, I guess, OCD a little bit, so I think that has affected some of his CG decisions. So he didn't want to be the center of attention, so it switched over to EVS, who is, in his own way, even weirder, but he was willing to be the ringmaster and have a lot of fun with CG, and it worked. The model was to form these entertainment networks and be funny online and be an entertainment and have entertaining and have these parasocial relationships, and also in the background sell your comics and sell your videos. And it's like the whole thing was kind of wholesome, Anyway, it wasn't perfect, of course, but it's a new independent movement. What do you, nothing is perfect. It wasn't professionally run. So mainstream comics is run by obese soy boys who pay for sex with ladyboys, and a lot of angry feminists who are too fat to have sex with their husbands. So I guess they take their frustrations out online, and they write these insane comics. I mean, just toxic far left, where everyone is a pox, walks, furry otherkin in some kind of interracial relationship. So like every relationship is going to be mixed, or there's going to be gay or trans, and they're pushing every left-wing topical talking point. It seems like global warming and the MAGA hats are like every other issue when they're not shoving their faces in tofu and soy lattes. Comics have a lot of eating scenes, I guess, just for the walls of dialogue. Who's that chick who was in Game of Thrones? She did a comic. What was it called? Moms. It was like 3 comics, and it was just text word balloons. It was just word balloon on top of word balloon. So the comics are for mentally ill leftists. And when diversity in comics came on the scene and criticized these soy comics, the left-wing Twitter kids lost their freaking mind because they've lived such ideologically sheltered life. The participation trophy generation, where they're taught what to think and not how to think. And here's how it works. Strap on your tinfoil hat. Everything their teachers know and they know came from globalist Hollywood videos, movies, and streaming shows. Most of it didn't come from books, where our generation, our knowledge came from books. And their whole worldview is fascism is bad, but anyone who's not a commie, anyone who's not Mao or Stalin is a fashionable one. And they go, no, they didn't do it correctly. It's like, you realize we've been hearing this for our entire lives if you lived through the 80s and the Cold War. So there is zero diversity of thought with the left. The right wing political, if you want to say the spectrum is from communism to fascism, those are just systems. There should be no emotional response attached to either one. They could both be appropriate depending on the circumstances and the group of people you're dealing with and maybe the scale, but there shouldn't, with the left-wing kids today, they have an emotional stimulus response where it just bypasses cognition. It's like, wait, you should stop that. You're supposed to expand your mind and think and ask questions. And like what was one of the dogma of the left was question everything. And you look at them now and you go, see, you trust the media and government? Oh, absolutely not. So how come it seems like you trusted them over the past 3 or 4 years? What happened there? Oh, well, they made us scared, so we trusted the media and government. But that's not a principled take. That's just acting out of fear. Hashtag pure blood. Anyway, that is the narrative, where the brainwashing is so extensive that even the right, as well as the left, will use the far right as a pejorative. That's how brainwashed even right-wingers are. It's all so tiresome, to the point where they'll call literal globalist communists fascists because they're brainwashed in a stimulus response, and it is just painful explaining it to them. But anyway, most Americans are brainwashed by this binary narrative to the point where the left wing will call like Laura Loomer and Ben Shapiro fascist Hugo Bosses, because they have some political takes that are slightly center or right of center. And you look at these kids and like, that's deranged. Or the right wing will do the same thing. Well, they'll look at like a WEF, a UN, Schwab, Soros type, and they go, fascists. And you're like, you're just using that word as a pejorative. You're not thinking at all. They're communists or globalists or whatever you want to call them, but that's like, you've just been brainwashed, and that's the only word you accept as the bad guys. And I mean, it really tells you something where the whole world, because of Hollywood brainwashing, views them as the bad guys. You're like, so, the communists were the bad guys. You know that, the Bolsheviks, right? Like, they drop more bodies that make anyone else, look like amateurs. And they go, oh, but Hollywood doesn't make movies about that. But you're supposed to read books about that. You're supposed to, like, oh, we don't read. We're pretty well fucked as a country if people don't read. And they don't. So it's honestly, like, all jokes aside, the country is completely screwed. A country of people. I was thinking about this. We have these bookshelves in our neighborhood. What do you call those things? Little book kiosks or something. And there was a Dover thrift edition of some of these books, like Mark Twain and whatever. It's the cheap paper bound, and the concept of it's been like this for 100 years of cheap books of literature and poems and whatnot, is that everyone should be able to afford an education. And I was thinking about that and thinking about like a high trust society, an educated society. And it seems like that's all gone about that concept of cheap paperback books of Mark Twain and whatever, Walt Whitman's and to be able to get a book and get an education even without paying for school just by reading on the outside. And you look around like, I think those days are done forever. It's not good to have an uneducated populace, because if they're not making up their own minds based on, issue, rule analysis, conclusion, then someone's just going to present them with the conclusion, and they're not even going to know how to analyze that information. Anyway, so Myers, I say Shane Davis, was insulting their absolutely lame comics. In their minds, that made him literally Hitler. It doesn't have to make sense. It's all just emotion from mentally ill left-wing soy boys. They don't know how to handle the open marketplace of ideas because free speech terrifies them. So ComicsGate was a threat to them and their worldview because SJW comics are propaganda. So attacking their comics was attacking them. It was attacking their religion. Nature abhors a vacuum. They got rid of Christianity over the past 80 years, and they replaced it with Bolshevism. It is a religion to them. And if the comics are written by the BLT, Pox, Walks, Furry, Otherkin, or women or whatever, then those people have privilege on the Marxist scale. So Myers is not allowed to criticize them. Know your place, boy, but they can criticize him. And the whole Mags Visage you back and forth. You're like, so this is just two adults having a thing back and forth. Like nobody's writing names on 308s. They're not hurting each other. They're just having a back and forth. Some of it's a little childish, but they're, separated by thousands of miles. They're just going back and forth. It shouldn't be blown up into a big thing, but these left-wing kids go, Mags is somewhere, some kind of BLT type of thing. It's like, but that doesn't give Mags any more privilege. I mean, why would it? How does that make them different from Myers? They're both just adults talking back and forth about comics and writing and stories. But the left wing, it doesn't work like that because a lot of them are developmentally frozen at maybe like 12 years. Anyway, so what happened here was some ComicsGate people decided to rent a table and sell some comics, and these soy boys decided that was a threat to their democracy. And they canceled them because they're not politically correct. And even Anna, that Star Wars girl, got caught up in this, and she got banned as well, but she didn't do anything. She just talks about pop culture and I don't know, Star Wars, I guess. But, she does, like a lot of people do these streams and back and forth, and there's Phantom Menace, and there's Yellow Flash's area, and there's ComicsGate's area. Oh, there's all these different, there's about a dozen of these different, I don't know, nucleus points or something, and people go back and forth all the time. But I guess because I don't know, there's poison fruit of the poison tree, or just they poison the well, so she's not allowed to go rent a table or something because she's associated with CG. It's just a group of YouTubers who are selling comics because the mainstream is such absolute crap. Okay, these are the three comics: Inglorious Rex, Cyberfrog, Godlike, and I was gonna look at Clint Stoker's latest Downcast Part 4 because he is selling it across like 3 or 4 different platforms. So each platform is only a couple of $1,000s. So I think that might hurt sales a little bit because you look at a platform, you only see it's like $4,500 on one platform. You go, but it's on 4 platforms. So it, whatever. I'll take a look at that in another video. Because Downcast and what was Ernst? Douglas Ernst. Soulfinder. I liked Soulfinder and Downcast, or Sweetcast, Soundcast. I liked the vibe of those comics when they came out. Those were I like the direction they were going in that. So I like to catch back up on. I got the first versions of those. Anyway, so Malin goes as a regular guest to C2E2, and he runs a live stream, and security busts him, gives him the anal probe. But even they say the whole thing is pretty lighthearted and frivolous, so they allow him to stay. And the whole thing is just bizarre when you look at it. And then there's that really big guy, Katz or something. He's huge. He does a web comic, and he's obsessed with ComicsGate for some reason. And the thing is, a lot of the anti-CG hatred is by these jealous pussies and soy boys because they can't do what CG does, or they don't think they can do what CG does. All they have to do is get on YouTube and be entertaining. But for them, that's actually kind of an impossible task because they are miserable, politically correct SJWs. And if they say one little faux pas, they drop one little N-bomb. That's not a faux pas. Whatever. They do something a little politically incorrect, some kind of off-color humor, and suddenly they're canceled. And it's like a permanent cancellation because everything on the internet is forever. And so they're terrified to speak. This is paralysis of analysis for these left-wing people, where they're scared to get canceled by their own side if they don't have privilege, and the privilege is this ever shifting. I like the most privileged thing you could be on the left right now would be to be trans and some kind of I don't know, from some area of the world that is not Europe, and then they can get away with more because nobody below them on the privilege hierarchy can criticize them. So they're they're holding the whip hand. Anyway, so they're terrified of their own side. I mean, it's got to be exhausting being like just this much of a pussy. Where it's better off if I was on the left. I would be on the left with my like global or national political views, but I'd also be politically incorrect right from the start. Like if I had a left-wing social media footprint, where I'd just be using slurs right from the start, so people would know, oh, this is something different. This is just a new category of left-winger who's not politically correct, and you know that right from the start. You're like, okay, you want to get on board with it. It's like the South Park model, where they when that thing came out in late 80s, late 90s, they start off with like Jesus Christ fighting Santa Claus, and even then later they talked about it. They're like, well, if you accepted that, then you can't get mad at us for going after all these other groups afterwards. And it's actually pretty brilliant. Anyway, check out Godlike, Cyberfrog, Inglorious Rex, and Sweetcast. Sweetcast is on YouTube. The channel's called Sweetcast, and the comic book is called Downcast. He's Clint Stoker. So he did a vampire book because, Stoker and what's the vampire book called? Dracula? I guess that was. I tried to get through Dracula. That is a long, slogging, very, very slow book. The book, not his Dracula comic book. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys all next episode.